Shalom Mubaraka, Mispaka, peace and blessings, family. This is a Patreon slideshow presentation. If you familiar with my channel, you already know my Patreon is lit. My Patreon is where it's at. My Patreon got that drop. If you want to see that drop, just go support my Patreon. So, what tree did Moses use to turn the bitter water sweet? This is a serious question, guys. This is a serious question. So basically, when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore they called the name of it Marah. And the people murmured against Moshe, saying, "What shall we drink?" And he cried unto Yahuwah, and Yahuwah showed him a tree, which when he had cast it in the waters were made sweet. Originally I said that this tree was a mangrove tree. But mangrove trees only clean the water, they do not make them sweet. Mangrove trees filter the water when alive, but when dead, they don't do anything. Plus, they won't make the water sweet. So, it can't be a mangrove tree technically. But the reason why Jewish people believe that it is the mangrove tree is because a mangrove tree is the only type of tree that grows anywhere near the Red Sea. So they have to say, oh, it's just a mangrove tree. It makes sense. It cleans the water. So, of course, that's what it. If mangrove trees clean the water and there's mangrove trees already there, then why were the waters bitter in the first place? Again, it could not have been the mangrove tree. So let's go to another slide, right? Slide 2. So here's option 1. Was it the maple tree? Maple trees are the sweetest trees on earth. They make our syrup. One tree has up to 15 to 20 gallons of sweet sap. They do not grow in the Sinai Peninsula where Marah was said to be. But the California maple can even be found in some parts of the Mojave Desert. Only the northern parts of the Mojave Desert. However, the actual part where that would have been, which further south, the Baja California Peninsula, maple trees don't really grow there. It's too dry. So I don't, maple trees are an option, but me personally, I don't really think it was a maple tree. However, it's still there. If you think that's what it was, then good for you. It's a possibility. They could have went and got a maple tree from up north and drug it back tomorrow, but I don't think that's what they did, honestly. I feel like they got a plant that's right next to them. You feel what I'm saying? But, let's go to the next slide. See what else it could have been. Maple trees, they got the size on them, you know what I'm saying? So, it could put a lot of sap in that water, but you'll have to cut it up a lot. So, option 2, was it licorice? Licorice is not a tree, but there is a possibility that this could be the plant that made the water sweet. This sweet plant grows in scattered locations in the Mojave Desert. If enough of the plants are collected, including the roots, and thrown into the water, the licorice will react with the heat of the water and turn into a very sweet tea that cures ulcers, bad breath, menstrual cramps, and acid reflux. So, in my opinion, licorice makes more sense than maple tree, even though licorice is not even a tree. You never know. It could have been a mistranslation. That happens in scripture. That's always a possibility. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, here's the bad side about licorice. You have to gather a whole bunch of plants and throw them in the water. You know what I'm saying? A whole bunch. In order to make the entire lake sweet for all 2 million people to taste it. You know what I'm saying? This plant cannot be found in the modern Sinai Peninsula. No plant can be found in the modern Sinai Peninsula. The only plant that grows in the Sinai Peninsula near the water is the mangrove tree. That's it. And then there's 11 species of plants that grow on the mainland. But here's licorice all in the Mojave Desert, right? So here's option 3. Option 3, was it agave? All right. As you see, agave grows all in the Mojave Desert. So let's look at something else. Agave is not a tree either, or is it? Our ancestors may have considered this 25-foot tall flower stalk to be a tree. Agave nectar is almost the sweetest thing a human can taste, only after stevia extract. The entire plant, from the flowers to the sharp leaves to the roots, are full of sucrose, giving it a sweet taste. This plant does not grow in the Sinai Peninsula, only Western North America and Mexico. Obviously, because no plant grows in the Sinai Peninsula, pretty much, especially no sweet plant. No sweet plant grows in the Sinai Desert. So, honestly, my spirit has a heaviness telling me that this is the plant. Even though it's not botanically or scientifically considered a tree, our ancestors probably would have considered it a tree. It's tall. You know what I'm saying? It's tall. It's 25 feet in the air, man. And yeah, it grows in the same area. It's extremely sweet, sweeter than sugar. One of the sweetest things that humans can taste. If Moses got enough agave and threw it in the water would have literally been sweet. There's no plant, I repeat, there's no plant, there's no tree in the Middle East that can make water sweet. Any plant that has a high amount of sucrose is found in America. You know what I'm saying? I had my personal belief, out of the 3 plants that we just looked at and discussed, my personal belief is this is what it is. My personal belief is that it was the agave. In the comments below, let me know which plant you think it was. Even if it's not a plant even if it's a plant that's not mentioned in this slideshow, let me know what you think it was. So the best reason of, evidence that I can give you as to why I say the agave makes more sense to me personally is because, first of all, it's the most tree-like plant that's actually everywhere in the desert. It's not a tree, but like I said, it's the most tree-like plant, other than the Joshua tree, of course. But Joshua trees are not sweet. You know what I'm saying? It's the most tree-like plant that's sweet, that's found everywhere in the desert, right? And on top of that, it's actually sweeter than the maple syrup. So it's sweeter than maple trees, right? But the maple tree, it would take a lot of work to, even get that done. Reason why is because you would have to pick out the biggest maple tree you can find, because whatever body of water this was in Mara had to be a large body of water, because it was enough to supply water to 2 million Israelites, allow them to eat, drink, and bathe with the water, wash clothes and everything. So you would need a substantial amount of this, sucrose field plant. So what you would have to do is you have to pick out the biggest maple tree you can find. So, a maple tree can be anywhere between 50 and 100 feet tall. So with that being said, let's say I'm going for a 100-foot maple. I would then have to hew that tree into several different parts, like small thin logs. Chop, 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 chop. Reason being is because I can't just cut down the tree and throw the tree in the water. That's not realistic. That's not actually going to make the water sweet. In order to make the water sweet, you have to expose the water to all the sap within the plant. So, yes, I would have to cut the maple tree into several parts, small parts, to allow the logs to flow throughout the entire surface of the water. Some people look at this scripture as if it's some type of magic, or as if it's some type of miraculous event. I look at this scripture as a literal, botanical, scientific event that can actually happen if you simply pick the right plant and use it wisely, because there are desert plants with high amounts of sucrose within them. So it's not something that's just, some spectacular event that just cannot happen unless, you're using Yah and Moses. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Yah was trying to show us different plants and what different plants can do. And I know that in the original text, it said this specific plant. However, the translators probably didn't know what it was, so they just replaced it with the word tree. Let's say I might even need multiple maple trees and do it. It would take a lot of work because maple wood, it's wood, it's hard. However, when we're dealing with agave, it's a soft tissue plant. And, just plucking up the rhizome up out the ground, the part that contains the most sucrose. The rhizome is the part that connects the stem to the root. It's a white tissue inside of the agave, and it will immediately leak with sap when you cut it open. And if you pop up anywhere between 40 to 60 agaves out the ground, cutting their leaves off and throwing them into the water, you've just done the same amount of work of cutting and hewing one large maple tree. So it would be, more convenient as well as more efficient to use agave rather than maple. Therefore, I just, solely believe that the agave is what it was. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Yah was just trying to show us how to survive in the desert. You know what I'm saying? And, the specific type of tree probably was in the original text, but the translator saw it and they didn't know what it was, so they just said a tree. They said, what plant is this? And they took it out and said a tree. You know what I'm saying? But I highly agree with the agave. Let me know what you guys think.